So,
oh, I saw them say that I kicked Drake's back in for doing the interview with Yachty.
Oh yeah,
and
they came for Hove too. With
yo, y'all idiots can't never speak for me.
What's up everybody and welcome back to another episode. Please like the video and subscribe. Our target is only 1,000 likes. So Kendrick Lamar didn't hold anything back in his vicious rap battle with Drake earlier this year, but he claims to not be an angry person at heart. In his first profile since the year-defining feud, Kendrick covered the Harper's Bazaar 2024 November Voices issue on Monday, which had him in conversation with former Top Dog Entertainment teammate SZA. Kendrick explained during the chat how he doesn't believe he's an angry individual, but how the duality of love and war do pose a need to exist. So while not like us proved decisive in his feud with Drake, Kendrick defined what the phrase means to him culturally, and it's much bigger than anything OVO related, saying, "Not like us is the energy of who I am, the type of man I represent, and now if you identify with the man that I represent, this man has morals, he has values, he believes in something, he stands on something, he's not pandering."
So I mean, I don't really feel the need to have it publicly. Well, let me see. Let me go to
what was some of the criticism that Kendrick received doing the Harper's Bazaar article?
The criticism was you keep talking this pro-blackity, blackity, blackity, black shit and how Drake is a culture vulture, and yet anytime you get a chance to represent culture, it's normally through a white outlet.
Didn't they try to criticize you too?
Well, they've done that forever, but for what?
They said you praised Kendrick for his interview and doing it, but you kicked Drake back in for going on the other side. So, like, they tried that with you also.
Oh, I saw them say that I kicked Drake's back in for doing the interview with Yachty.
Oh yeah, and they came for Hove too. With
yo, y'all idiots can't never speak for me. Y'all try your best because of that little AdSense check y'all get on the 21st, but y'all can't speak for me. My brain is way too warped, and I have way too many multiple personalities for any of y'all out there to just assume this is what Joe Budden was thinking. I absolutely love Drake sitting with Yachty during the interview. My disdain came from Yachty being allowed to go to the studio after that.
He did say that.
I said it then, I'll say it now. I love seeing peer-to-peer communication.
Yeah.
I don't need some of those peers in the studio while some of them are cooking up. I don't need that. As far as Kendrick goes, anything I say here, they're going to say I'm chasing an interview because I bigged Kendrick up for so long during the beef. I could give two fucks if Kendrick don't sit with me. And that's why I have a problem with what Punch is saying. When you say hip-hop media, there are way too many options to choose from for you to lump all of those people under one umbrella of, hey, y'all talk bad about the artist and the artists feel away, so they don't want to talk to you. That is a crock of shit. You can't tell me that. Now, many of us in hip-hop media choose to speak about you rather than to you because the gig is the gig. But where I come from, the hip-hop that I know, even those things led to more anticipation for an amazing interview, right?
Sure.
Like, when Chance came up here and did the pod, I was kicking Chance's back in for months.
True. About
that fake independent shit, about the 3 hats, about so many things. And he was listening. And he said, you know what? I'm going to face you. And we're going to have the discussion. And we did, and it was important at the time. Who else? Big Sean. When I sat with him, months before that, I was kicking his back in. I've had a lot of interviews where I was kicking somebody back in, and they came right to the smoke. Rather than say, hey, this person's been talking about me, and my feelings are hurt, so I don't want to go. I don't even like his point to Homeboy that had to go to therapy. Homeboy that had to go to therapy is a dude sitting at home somewhere who knows what he works and where he works and what his home life is like. He is not performing in front of millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of people. He's not required to have the same tough skin that some of our entertainers are
required to have.
But is that an unfair requirement? To Punch's point, is that an unfair requirement that these are still human beings? One,
And just because my career puts me in front of a million people, that doesn't mean that I can be disrespected or I should be disrespected and just have to tolerate that.
But see, and that's where we conflate points. Yes, I agree with that. I also don't think everybody in hip-hop media kicked one person's back in. There are too many people in hip-hop media. Find the person that is true and aligns with whatever you're trying to do and talk to that person then. I just think it gets real murky when artists today won't sit with anybody.
I agree with that. And I said that about Harper's Bazaar. I said I thought it would have been a negative if they didn't let SZA interview him.
Okay.
I think that we basically beat the critique by allowing SZA to sit with Kendrick as opposed to some white media person or some white interviewer that fucking grew up in Connecticut. No disrespect to Connecticut.
And it's possible he wouldn't have done the interview if SZA was the one that wasn't conducting it.
I didn't knock that. But let's say this. Why couldn't we have SZA interview him for a black media publication?
Is it too much to assume that whatever mediation an artist does align with isn't getting the numbers or won't get the response, and that's why they don't do it?
I mean, that's one of the critiques.
But that's
a
part,
critique, though.
But that's part of. I want to focus on what you're saying because that's part of my critique, right? J1 is right. When you're talking about appealing to the masses and you're talking about stars and a certain level of audience, that includes white people.
True, 1000%.
Like if you're talking only blacks, then we're talking about playing with a quarter of the monopoly board. So I'm not mad at that. But the same way that you go and speak to them, I think it should be equally as important to find the person in hip hop specific, not just black, hip hop media that you could sit with. I think if Kendrick never sits with anybody, we are well within our right to kick his fucking back in. I also don't see a world where Kendrick won't sit with a big boy or sit with a Sway or sit with, I don't see, they have to show me that he won't do that for me to believe that. See, Drake, I know that about because of how he's going about interviews since that Elliott Wilson interview, how that interview went, how the interviews, like I know that about him now. Like even recently, not recently, but a few years ago, he tried to do some shit where all the media people come up here, we'll do the interviews, I edit it up, slice it up. No, nigga, no, this ain't going like that. I don't want to talk to nobody that ain't an interview.
Sure.
If you just gonna dictate the questions, the answers, the footage, and everything, then that don't count for shit. I think Punch is right that a lot of hip hop media is trash.
And
but I think Homeboy is right. There's a lot that's great about hip hop media that's not highlighted by the people that we need it highlighted by, because y'all represent very sensitive artists, and y'all have to deal with very sensitive artists. I don't think that part is highlighted enough too. Like, I'm sure that Punch and some other executives have stories upon stories upon stories about how they've had to walk an artist off the ledge because of something that I said or something that Axe said or something that somebody in hip-hop media said.
Definitely.
And when you're on that side of it, why wouldn't you protect your artist by saying, no, we're not talking to nobody? And we don't need to.
True.
But I want to point that they don't need to. But I mean, does it come with a certain optic? You fucking right, it does.
Two things. I'm agreeing with you. Two things.